on-the-ground experience sharing, hosted by Mr. Khairul, a senior security consultant, and Mr. Syahmi, a security consultant from Nexagate. All right, I think we're all sponges for knowledge, and the stage is yours, Mr. Khairul and Mr. Syahmi.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Aidan. All right. My my sound clear? Hello?
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
your mic's okay, Mr. Khairul.
All right. Okay. So, hello guys. So, all right, welcome to the sharing session by Nexagate. All right. So basically, our sharing session here is to share with you guys our experience on Nexagate's daily operation, which is from my side, from the perspective of SPA, Security Posture Assessment, and my colleague, Muhammad Syahmi, from the perspective of SOC. All right, so before start, let me share you guys my background. So my name is Khairul Anwar. So my colleague call me K, Mr. K, and Khairul. So I'm the senior security consultant at Nexagate. So basically, my department is the technical security part, which is we handle the security posture assessment part, as well as the part of the forensic investigation, and then um, the level 3 of SOC. All right. So basically, the what I will share today is the first one will be the 9 to 5 daily operating, which what we call it, which my team and I are experiencing from daily basis. All right. So what? All right. So basically, our daily basis start at 9 until 5 o'clock. So every day our office hour is sure 9 to 5, but sometime we will work after office hour, which is maybe start 9 in the night, or perhaps after 12 a.m. All right. This is because sometimes our client, they have their dependency. So sometimes when we want to do the the Pentest project, sometimes in the office hour, the system is being used by their staff and so on, or their customer. So to avoid any service disruption, or perhaps any service downtime during the office hour 9 to 6, we tend to do the testing after office hour, which is sometime start at 9, start at 8, depend on the availability of the client. All right. So all right, that's part of the our schedule. And then what we do actually is not it's not just we do the pen test, give the result to client, but during our testing, if let's say the client encounter any problem, such as the service downtime, we also advise the client how to, what we call it, how to do the troubleshoot. And if let's say the perhaps maybe other sensitive, what do you call it, perhaps the type of testing that we done perhaps might impact their network, we uh, we will we will stop immediately our testing and then troubleshoot, and then we suggest to reschedule the testing. All right. So not only the testing, basically after we finish doing the SPA, basically we will assist the client to do the mitigation part, uh, because sometimes when we submit a report, we already put the detail on how to fix it. Sometimes the fix is not applicable to the client infra perhaps. So we tend to advise them accordingly on if let's say the mitigation is not suitable for their infra, we need to find and we need to help the client on how to do the fixing. All right, it's part on our daily basis. Um, for beginning, it's hard for for a pen tester who always do pen testing but didn't know how to maybe do how to fix it, how to mitigate it, because you tend to uh, depend on the scanner result, or you just read it on the internet on how to mitigate all those issues, but you didn't experience on how to mitigate it. All right. In our daily project, we not only do the pen test, but we need to understand if let's say we do the step A, is it applicable to our client infra or not? If not, we need to try other solution. So it's how we do our do our daily tasks. All right. Apart from that, when we have free time, we tend to um, expand our knowledge in terms of the new technology. We try to get new knowledge on to enhance our technical skill. For example, me myself, I know how to do web application pen test. All right. So based on nowadays trend, there's so much WAF protection that already block the what we call it our payload of testing. For example, the SQL injection, the process scripting, the RCE part. So I need to enhance my skill. For example, to bypass all those scripting mechanism. So what I will do is I will study the the latest trend of WAF. For example, I study how the WAF is working, how the mechanism of the blocking, and then I try to bypass the the block mechanism itself. For example, maybe we put single encode, double encode, or other type of um, other type of encoding that I can think of during my research. All right. So if let's say I manage to bypass those kind of determinism, I will do a short of POC report. Perhaps I submit uh, to the WAF that I managed to bypass, and I keep in my repository for whenever I encounter the same WAF technology, I try to use the same technique. If let's say I manage to bypass it, I report to my client and also advise them accordingly. All right, that's my daily 9 to 5. But sometimes when I got the free time, I'm not only focused in the Pentest itself. I communicate with my other colleague in other department. If let's say they need any help, for example, the SOC department, uh, if they need any help on the incident management, perhaps sometimes we tend to have a discussion on the latest and how we want to help our client. Um, if let's say they affected with different type of new kind of attack, we uh, we identify it's new kind of attack and there's no reported um, incident anywhere in the internet. So we tend to discuss among ourselves on how to um, react on that kind of incident, because sometimes if the new type of attack emerge and then our SOC detect it, we then use that scenario to further enhance our SPA technique, because sometimes If let's say you do the same kind of attack over and over again, sometimes you tend to feel that there's no challenge, especially in pen test. But if let's say you are eager to build a new kind of testing, a new kind of test scenario inside the client, for example, the web application itself. If let's say you stick to the one technique only, you tend to feel it's not very hard anymore. It feel you lack of what we call that passion when you do testing. That's why for me, if I want, it's not it's not that I want to what we call that, make people think me as the best pen tester. It's not that. I always come with a new method type of testing, because sometimes the all method of testing is not applicable to the new one. Sometimes the maybe perhaps 2 years back, the methodology you can bypass it, but nowadays you cannot bypass it anymore, because the uh, the security product always updating from time to time. All right, so that's the what do you call that, the normal daily what I do, actually 9 to 5. But even though it's specified 9 to 5, it's not that I need to go to the office start at 9 and then at 5 p.m. I go back to my home already. It's not like that. Sometimes um I check in early in the office, and then sometimes I go back and late at night. It depends on the um what I want to do for certain period of day, because sometimes um, there is an ad hoc request from my client. For example, when they want to do mitigation, we give them a period of time to do all the fixing. All right, and then during that time, sometimes the client will perhaps call my team or call me to assist them on how to fix those issues. All right. Based on my experience, uh, when assisting a few of my clients, even though the severity of the finding is maybe medium, or the impact is not so crucial, but when the client want to fix it, they found any difficulty. Sometimes it tend to take about 2 or 3 days to fix that issue, because sometimes the client, even though the severity medium, they want to close the issue. Sometimes it depends on the policy of the client. Sometimes they accept the risk of medium and low finding. So anything that you report it to them, they take it as they accept the risk for medium. They only mitigate for those or critical and high finding. All right. So what else I want to share? All right. So apart from the 9 to 5 working hour, sometimes I work on the weekend, but it's ad hoc basis. It's not every weekend I need to work, because sometimes perhaps the testing period for my client, we need to for example, we already set for 1 month to complete one project. If let's say they want to cut it short, sometimes I will work on the weekend. I sacrifice a bit so that I can we can complete the project as required by the client. But in Nexagate, uh, in Nexagate, even though you work in the weekend, the perhaps maybe I don't know in other company, but in Nexagate, if you work on the weekend outside your normal office working hour, you can you can claim the OT. Right, that's in Nexagate, but I don't know if other company have the same policy. All right, so I think that's it from the experience from 9 to 5. If you guys have any question, just throw in the question as we go along in this sharing session. All right, all right. So the next part, let's move into the detail of my job scope. All right. So basically, in Nexagate, we have um, four pillar of services. The first one is the SPA consulting security posture assessment, which is consists of the pen test, the red teaming, the forensic, the cloud pen test, other type of pen testing. That is the first pillar. The second one will be the risk consulting. So the risk consulting department, basically they provide the information security services to the client. For example, the ISMS 27001, ISMS 27001, 170, and then other type of uh, risk consulting regarding to the information security. And the last part will the third pillar will be the managed security protection, which consists the SOC. And then the last one, our on software product, which is the NSI, Nexa Security Intel, which encompasses all our three pillar, whether where the client can have a look the posture of their information as a whole from the perspective of the three pillar itself. All right. So for my department, we focus the security assessment part, which cover the SPA, security posture assessment, the cloud security, the internet security assessment, um, and then also the red teaming and the forensic part. All right, sometimes the forensic in other company, maybe they tend to associate the forensic with the SOC, but in Nexagate, the forensic part is fall under the technical security department. All right. So among the testing, the 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 quite popular the demanding service by our client is the SPA part, the security posture assessment. All right. What actually is SPA? Okay, so basically SPA is the acronym will be the security posture assessment. So maybe some of you know it by the name of Pentest. All right. In the SPA, there's many type of testing we provide, such as the network pen test, which cover the internal and external penetration testing, the web application pen test. Sometimes we do offer the API security assessment also a part of the web application, and then the VA. All right, the VA vulnerability scanning and the pen test also. So the VA could be cover the network penetration testing, which the internal and external. All right, and then um, for the cloud security assessment, it will cover on the what do you call that, the basic security configuration, such as the misconfiguration of the cloud, and then we also check on the the infra of the cloud as a whole. For example, after we manage to detect if there is some misconfiguration on the configuration of the cloud, for example, the leak of the bucket layer of the cloud, and then the misconfiguration of the admin credential, or perhaps uh, leak resource from that accessible from the from external perspective. All right, and then um, the red teaming and the internet. Okay, for the red teaming and internet, it's much more the same, but sometimes out there they they tend to make internet and red teaming differ from each other, because different company, they have their own methodology on how to do the red teaming, on how to do the internet assessment. But in Nexagate, um, in Nexagate, those two two assessment is much more the same, but based on the scenario that has been chosen by our client. For example, if let's say they want to do the red teaming on AD assessment, we will focus our testing on AD. So we will try to uh, break into the infra by access their AD. So we try to um, on their AD, crack the password. Perhaps if let's say we are able to get into the infra. All right. Right. The next one should be, but uh, our client basically they tend to choose the spa because the spa part is the requirement of fulfilling ISMS in Malaysia, and then of course it's affordable for them, and it's a basic requirement for information for security. All right. So basically, why they always want they choose spa, and then what is the importance of spa? Because all right, when the client or perhaps the company out there, they need to do spa because if they they want to know the security posture of their infra, they need to do the spa, because in spa we cover all those criteria which we will test from external perspective, internal perspective, and in the network level, and then we also cover the web from the application perspective, which is covered in the web application, and then what else? So, all right, let me. Okay, all right. Um, okay, basically, from the spa perspective, I think that's much. But perhaps maybe my other colleague will share on the SOC point of view in Nexagate. All right.
Okay, thank you, K. Okay, can you guys see me? Okay, so hi, assalamualaikum and good evening, guys. I'm Syahmi. Okay, so basically I'm from managed services team. So my role is as a level 2 SOC. So what I'm doing, my daily task is create monitor all the incidents, also the create the use case for it, for in terms of the detection and how consult with the client, respond with any requests, and also the reporting part. So okay, I'm not gonna take much time. I'm gonna straightforward with the content. So what is the incident response? So incident response is on how you approach to handle when any new incidents detected, or any security breach or cyber attack that happened inside the client network. So basically, for this kind of thing, you need have a guideline. You need have steps that need to follow in order to respond for any new kind of the incident. So what is the step for when we detect a new incidents from our monitoring? So first, we need to have a good preparation, such as document guideline, uh, the communication during and after the events. We need also have a good threat intelligence feeds, which consists of the IOCs, the bad IP, or maybe the bad URL that detect from the client network. And next is also we need to have a cyber hunting exercise, which like we train with our among SA, like try to find this kind of threat, So this can train our SA to mature enough to handle when a new incidents detected, maybe at late at night when they are working, so they can be more alerts. And also we need to have a good threat detection capability. So threat detection capability means use case, and how we want to correlate this incident with this incident between the firewall and the servers. So this kind of thing is a preparation that we need to have during the incident response. Second one is a detection and reporting. Yes, when we have a good preparation, SA will need to monitor what currently we are using SIAM, security information and event management. We are using Splunk. So by this SIM we can create a use case for it to detect any incidents, any alerts, such as brute force attack detection, or maybe high traffic like DDoS, or maybe rare process detected, or maybe suspicious admin created. So this kind of thing, use case that have a priority or severity of it. So SA need to be more alert in terms of detection and report when this kind of incident trigger. They need to report to the client and open the ticket for record. And then we have a triage and analysis. So triage analysis means more on the determine during when the SA detect this incident trigger. So they need to make the analysis of this incident. They need to check. Basically, they need to check first if got the source IP. What is the source IP of it? Where this first traffic detected? What is time is it? So second is which server or host that be involved in this incident. And then what is the status? What is the action of it? And then also we need to know the destination, the impact, which server, which host that getting this traffic. We don't know. We need to know because by know this kind of information, we can know how much the risk that be impact to the client network or during the incident. And also SA need to know, is it a true positive or false positive? Because usually sometimes false positive also keep occur during the use case. So when this false positive trigger and SA has already verified this one is a legitimate, so we will make a whitelist for our detection for the use case. And then yes, binary analysis. Also during the investigation, SA need to know what tools that they use. Maybe sometimes from the firewall or from the Windows perspective, we can find this user or this host detected using this example like Mimikatz tool, or maybe some kind of or from any hacking tools, maybe scanning. So this kind of tool is need to alert and know. And if let's say there's a suspicious file, maybe a typo.exe, maybe. So this kind of things we need to know and document, and also check which process, which parts that this process trigger, to make sure that maybe this kind of IOC is from this gang, or maybe this group, hacker groups, so we can know their traversal movement. And then next, when we have the detect and everything, doing the running this analyze this incident, containment and neutralization, we need to know how to respond to this kind of incident. So maybe we can advise the client, okay, this server is already infected, we have detect this kind and this kind, this server have already, this hacker already create an admin account to this host, or maybe it's already deploy something on this host. Maybe we should advise them to isolate or shut down the server for a while. And then we can advise them, if let's say they approve and the server can be shut down, we can ask them to wipe it out and rebuild back the server. But usually, of course, client will deny, will prevent from wipe out this server, because of course it's got a sensitive data, got a very useful information data that they need for their business. So in other way, we will try to find a way how to mitigate this kind of threat, and all the IOC that found during this mitigation will be recorded for us. Maybe this kind of IOC is new, so maybe we will keep it and report it from what difference do we have. Like maybe we have our own record of the IOC. So this one will be added inside our SIM for future detection. And lastly is a post-incident activity. So post-incident activity, after we have analyzed and everything, of course we need to open ticket and send to the client. And then if let's say this incident is very critical, maybe a P1, high severity, so we will do the RCA. RCA is a root cause analysis, where we cover on all from the first detection happen until the last detection happen, what this incident doing, what is affected, what is the impact of this incident, and how you want to how to remediate to remediation of this incident. So this all information will be documented in the RCA and shared to the client for their record and for our record also. And also all the IOC that we have been collect will be add and update to our threat intelligence, where we have a use case where we create there are 1,000 of it, in terms of IP, in terms of URL, in terms of file name, suspicious file name. So this all IOC will be update and can improve our threat intelligence use case. And other than that, okay, there's an example based from my experience. One of before this, one of the client that we handle, their website have been getting hacked by this I cannot expose this group name from this country. Currently we observe their website have been web defacement, because they already stated that they already hijacked this website, they put their names, and they mentioned that their website, this client website is a very easy for them to breach. And so when we observe this kind of detection, we immediately inform client, we call them, inform that this website is already been breached. And then when they check, yes, it is. So we try to communicate with them and ask when this does the admin that handle this website detect any suspicious or anything before that, because the client just new for us. I think maybe before the incident happened, maybe that 2 or 3 months after that. So they told us that actually it has been the third time. So it's still new because this client is still new for us. So and then they provide us all the logs, all the web server logs, the nginx logs, the server logs. Right? So we analyze and we check all of it, all the traffic, all the IP of it, and we observe nothing suspicious. I mean, it's like all clean. So and then we suspect maybe because it's not the first time, it's a second or third time. Maybe it's their backup that have been affected. So we consult with the client team and we ask to check for their backup. So we ask for our other team. We have a red team to check with them. So when during the checking of the backup file, the backup folder, we observe the hacker already make a backdoor inside their backup without they notice it. So that's why even though they have already wiped out their file, their everything, and they rebuild it, the hacker still able to gain access inside the network. How we know it? Because it's a two-way communication. Client informed it to us that they observe there are many suspicious new file observed from their network. So when we check from our logs, yes, we observe there are many suspicious file created in the inet pub, in the OWA. So when we detect, when we observe the file that they share to us, we analyze it in the our tools in the sandbox. Yes, this kind of this kind of file is have been reported related with this security patch update for the exchange. So we immediately advise them to immediately update it. And in the meantime, we ask them what can we advise is during this event, maybe we can ask them to limit the access of the user, even though the admin have all access, but we need to we create a use case for it to monitor all the admin activities, all the user activities, all the traffic activities, all the new file or reprocess activities. So all of this kind is honestly is very noise, but because this hacker already gained the admin access. So every time there's a new admin access activity, a new admin activity detected, we will communicate with the client. Is this activity legitimate? Is this activity legitimate or not? Is this activity or the admin create this something is true? So until now, actually it's still occurring right now. So we are still under investigation to check all of the use case, and also we also found that a few IOC from this group, such as one of it is a China chopper and half name groups. So, but still, we are still under monitoring this kind of activity. What information that what's more information that we will find more.
All right. So all right. So all right. Thanks, Syahmi. And then from my team perspective, all right. So every time they receive an incident, like mentioned by Syahmi, the role of our team is to provide the additional information such as on how that threat actor is moving from one point to one point. For example, if let's say if I'm the one that doing the pen test, if I want to mimic the threat actor method, how will I escalate the step? How will I move it from especially when I already on or take over one server? How will I move from one server to another server without being detected. All those information, my team will feed the data to Syahmi's team, because they only detect the IOC, but they don't know how actually what we call that, the further step that the threat actor might do. So that activity will cover by my team basically. So for example, like mentioned by Syahmi, the China chopper. So uh, me myself, I study the China chopper, how I want to how we want to replicate those kind of incident, because we need to know how they attack the exchange server, or how they do the lateral movement from point A until point Z. So sometime, if let's say there is somebody that mimic the China chopper, for example, they want to mimic, but they tend to change the methodology in the middle. So our team will try to mimic that kind of methodology. For example, if let's say I already at this stage, um, what what the things that I can do, or what is the method that I can change to, what we call it, to make my method of capturing the server is more stealthy, is not being captured by any CM, any security product. So how we gonna move from that? So after we know how we will move, we will do the lateral movement. We will feed those kind of information to Syahmi team so that they can update their case scenario. So uh, after that, if they see another IOC, they know that it's come from maybe the variants of the China shop, for example. Because sometimes, if one track actor they they use one method, if let's say that method has been blocked by any security mechanism, they will use another variance, perhaps to make their method more stealthy, or other method to make their maybe payload exam successful, so that they can take the server or any information successfully. All right. So maybe Syahmi, you can share with your student the experience of working hour from your team.
Okay, so basically, in SOC, we are working 24/7, which is currently in Nexagate, we are working 12 hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. So, yes, of course, during the day shift, usually it's very packed, it's very busy, because yeah, in terms of the detection, in terms of the incident that trigger, we need to investigate, and also the client request this kind of detection, or maybe for other things that they want, maybe information that they want to check from us, because we monitor their logs, their networks. And also sometimes for every early of the month, we do a monthly report. So this monthly report is consists of all the traffic trend, the firewall trend, the server trend, all their critical server. We monitor all the inbound and outbound traffic, all this in terms of they have other product that they use, maybe in terms of their endpoint protection they're using. So this kind of dashboard we will create, and we will put it inside our report. And also other than that, during as during the night shift, usually is a bit not too busy like a day shift, because yeah, but usually we always highlight to the SA that they need to alert during the night shift, because if let's say there's activity happen during night, or let's say admin activity happens, they need to make to be more careful, because usually, yeah, everyone is sleeping and then there's this activity. Of course, it's kind of suspicious, right? So SA need to go deep doing this investigation. So usually, if let's say they stuck on something, we always available. They can call us anytime. So we always be there and prepare for them if let's say they need help. So because we are 24/7, so we have what is called SLA, service level agreement. Let's say this incident trigger at 2 a.m. We need to make sure respond this incident within 15 minutes for the high priority P1 priority. So within the 15 minutes, we need to inform client and send the ticket. So this SLA, service level agreement, is the agreement between us and the client to make sure that any incident that trigger is respond within timely manner. And other than that, I think that's all.
All right. So thanks, Syahmi. All right. So basically, in Nexagate, we have two mode of working hour. The first one will be Syahmi's team, which is the shift from 8 to 8, the morning session, and 8 to 8 from the night session. If you guys want to involved in SOC, you can try approach Syahmi's team. And then if let's say you are the morning person, you want to try the SOC environment, you need to change your sleeping habit, you need to change your diet habit, because those two habit basically affect your what we call it, your sleeping time, your what we call it, the I can set the effective time, because sometimes if let's say you are feels you feel sleepy at the night shift, and your alert level is not at the best, so it will bring harmful to the whole team, because as Shamit said, for the SOC part, the nighttime is very crucial than the day shift. All right. So, but for other departments such as the technical department, the official the official working hour will be 9 to 5, but it will change based on client requirement on the testing. So the testing, it might be after 12 at the midnight and before 7 in the morning. So it's not permanent, but maybe perhaps you will encounter once or twice in a month. But for SOC, it depends on your shift. So maybe perhaps this week your shift is morning, perhaps next week your shift is in the night, something like that. All right. All right. So for the SOC is the Security Operation Center. But in Nexagate, we call it what again?
CFC, Cyber Fusion Center.
Cyber Fusion Center, CFC.
Yes.
Because why we name it CFC? Because unlike normal SOC, our SOC is combined with all the information security team, which is the risk consulting part, and then from the technical perspective, and then the SOC itself. So that's why next target branding for SOC is CFC, Cyber Fusion Center. All right. So, all right. Any question from the audience about the, perhaps if you want to know the working and you want to know beforehand before you dwell into cybersecurity. All right. Is there any question before we end our session for Experience sharing. How do get to where you are is still learning path that you will recommend. All right. So from let me start with my path first before I pass to Syahmi. All right, my path actually is basically you need to set you need to set a goal. So which path do you want to achieve? Is it you want to do a technical side of Pentest only, or you want to become a consultant? The difference between the technical Pentest and the consultant Pentest is the consultant you not only pentest the system, you deal with your client also. So you need to what you call it, boost both your technical skill and your soft skill. So you can choose your goal. If let's say you want to become a fully technical pen tester, push for it, go for it, and make sure whenever you found any difficulty during your path, don't discourage, because if let's say you found any difficulty, and then maybe this pen test not suitable for me. If let's say you have that mindset, I guarantee you will not become success in this path. So for example, for me, I chose the consultant part because I'm not only doing the pen test at the back end. So I interact with the client, I give the hardening workshop for client on how I assist them on how to mitigate. So I need to boost two field here. The first one, my technical. So the CEH, the OSCP, or other type of technical certification. And then the one I need to enhance my soft skill. So because why you need to enhance your soft skill? Because you need to know what is the layman term for each of the technical. If you want to talk with the C level of the company, of perhaps you want to make the non-IT to understand what are you doing on, or perhaps if you want them to fix it, how you want to make sure that your client understand and the client know how to fix those things. Because sometimes if let's say in your report later on after you do a pen test, you said this is how to mitigate those kind of issue. If let's say those kind of mitigation is not applicable, it's not applicable on your client side, and if let's say they don't know that that one is not applicable at all, so how you want to make your client understand on that? So you need to enhance your soft skills too. That's from perspective of mine. For Syahmi.
Yeah, K spoke on hybrid team, blue and red. So for me, I'm more on the blue team. So basically, if let's say for my parts, if you guys want to interested on in term of detection, in term of how to defend it, I think you guys can start, because you can start with because we are playing with more on SIEM sim. So maybe you can start explore taking a free certificate of SIEM, maybe Arcside or Splunk. So Splunk, currently we are using Splunk. So maybe you can start taking the fundamental one. This one is the basic knowledge. And other than that, there's also other free certificate. You guys can explore. There's so many of it. Just you can try to find it. And mm, other than that, the fundamental of the system, or I mean the common kind of the cyber threat, also you guys need to know what is the, because usually, like example, the common one is the port scanning. So of course, port scanning is the basic one, I think, because every day there's a scanning attempt. So how it's work, the fundamental of it, usually SE need to know this kind of common cyber threats.
So there's another question here. What cert do you recommend us getting? So for the pen tester, I suggest the basic one will be the CEH, the Certified Ethical Hacker, and then the advanced one, the OSCP. Only for pen testing, I think those two cert is quite what we call it marketable in the market right now. So many consultant firm, cybersecurity consultant firm, and even the banking are looking for OSCP. So if let's say you are ready to take OSCP cert, why not just take OSCP? OSCP stands for Offensive Security Certified Professional. All right, if you want to take it. But if let's say uh, you are not ready enough in terms of technical, you can go for CEH. And if let's say your technical is quite good already, you can take either CEH Master or SCP. Only that two. So for SOC, Syahmi already mentioned. There's so much for the CM, the fundamental of SOC so that you can take. All right. And then does Nexagate provide physical pen testing service? All right. So what do you mean by physical pen testing service? Is it for the physical such as the ATM or chaos? If like that, we do offer. If let's say uh, your physical pen testing service, you mean by we penetrate the physical environment, for example, from the gut until lock picking, it's part on the red teaming. So we do cover, but the scenario will be customized based on the requirement from your side or perhaps the law at Malaysia. And then more question. Is there any cases that you work on where people are arrested as a result of universization? Right now, no, because Nexagate policy, if let's from the forensic part, we will not uh, we not receive a project, a forensic project that dwell with lawsuit, or perhaps we want to capture any guy. And from SOC perspective, so now our investigation doesn't lead any person arrested, the threat actor so far. All right, what is your opinion on vigilante hacking? All right, so sometimes this one is from my opinion, not Nexagate opinion, not our MD opinion, or not others. Okay, sometimes vigilante hacking is required because depend on the situation, depend on the certain situation. Why I say this? Because sometimes uh, some organization needs an eye opener, or they need a wake up call so that they know the importance of cybersecurity. For example, uh, in other country, when I do some bug bounty in what we call it, in proper way, they didn't take any action at all. They didn't uh, they didn't reply my mail, or they didn't take action on it. But what I do is I just put a screenshot on their database that has been leaked, and then I put on their social media. After that, they suddenly have the audacity to reply me back. So that's why vigilante hacking sometimes it's required, but depend on the situation. It's not that I agree with vigilante hacking, but sometimes when there's no hope, we can do it. But don't what we call it, don't make the impact so so big. You can do it, but don't make the impact so big, and then don't show to other what you have do. Keep it yourself and your perhaps your potential client. All right. Question from YouTube. Is there framework using SPA? Okay. Basically, in Nexagate, we use the OSSTM, the NIST framework, and then other open source frameworks such as the OWASP Top 10. We do refer some of the framework available. All right, and then also the ISMS. All right.
All right. I think that's all the questions. Does anyone have any questions left? I think there's enough time to fit one more in. No? We'll give him 5 seconds. Oh, okay.
I think that's all.
All right. I think that's all too, because there's no activity. Well, thank you, Mr. Khairul and Mr. Syahmi, for sharing your experiences with us. And of course, thank you for answering all of the questions all the participants and viewer had in mind. I really appreciate it. I think that's it for today's session. Do you guys have anything to add before we move on to the next one?
All right. So, all right. So, if let's say APU student want to try Nexagate culture, feel free to contact us for your internship placement, because we do offer a place for intern student, and then I guarantee the culture at Nexagate, I can say much more different than other other company, because you need to join our team first, and then you know what I mean. All right. So that's all from me.
All right, that does sound like a very great opportunity. Thank you for bringing that up. And for those who are interested for doing their internship, of course, as Mr. Khairul said, definitely reach out to them. Thanks again for coming. And of course, thank you again for making this Deriv event possible. We will have a closing ceremony later. So if your schedule is free, feel free to join us for that. Thank you. We'll take a 5-minute short break before we move on to the next session.
Breaking into their network.
Welcome to the Battle of Hackers. I'm Tom, CTO here at Deriv.com, and we're proud to be sponsoring this event. For those who haven't heard of us before, we're an online trading platform. Trading means we deal with money and client data, and these topics demand excellent security awareness. This means we have a dedicated security team, and they're always busy. Dealing with payments, multiple cloud systems, and the ever-changing challenges of technology means that we have to test and extend our systems continuously. Of course, this also means that we're hiring. So, scan those QR codes and give us a shout. Security is critical to us, and we strongly believe that this should apply to any IT company. The role a security engineer plays is essential in keeping systems safe and secure, both by defending and testing limits through simulated hacking exercises. It demands creativity, flexibility, and a wide range of knowledge for networking, frameworks, languages, and systems. We hope this event will give you an opportunity to demonstrate your skills to the fullest extent, and we're very excited to see what you can do in the time available. Good luck and get hacking.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Faisal. I'm the Chief Growth Officer of Nexagate. We are very proud today to be collaborating with APU to make Battle of Hackers 2021 happen. This is part of our initiative to nurture...
Are well rested, and for those who had to use the bathroom, I hope you guys went. So I believe a lot of you would agree that was a really great session, and I believe a great number of you are also eager for the next one. So without further ado, can we welcome Mr. Amit, a security team lead in Deriv, and also Mr. Ali, a security researcher from Deriv.
Hello.
They will be hosting.
Yeah, you can continue.
All right, please. Oh, no, sorry, it's okay. You guys can take over.
Yeah, so I need like screen sharing permissions.
Oh, 1 second.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a good day so far. So my name is Amit, and I have my colleague Ali with me. So today, like, we'll be presenting about like how to do pen testing for WebSockets. So Ali's alumni. Ali, do you want to share anything about that fact?
Yeah. So I am Ali Fathi. I was APU student from 2015 until 2019. I did my bachelor degree in cybersecurity, and I was awarded in 2018 as a best student, and then decided to continue my master, where I did my master in software engineering, and I finished almost by the end of 2019. And then from there, I joined Deriv as a security researcher.
Yes. Okay, so let's like jump into the presentation directly. So today, like, we'll be learning how to pen test WebSockets, and then before that, like, I would like to tell you about like the company and who are your presenters. So this competition is sponsored by Deriv. So Deriv is like a trading platform, and then we have like multiple trading platform One is like Deriv.com, another one is binary.com, and then we also have something called DevX. So we have like multiple trading platforms, and then like these are some of the statistics in front of your screen. So we have like almost around like 20 years of industry experience. So we had like our oldest product, which was like launched 20 years ago, and then it is still there. And then we have almost like 2.7 million clients with us, and then about the how much money is like transacted. So we like almost like 9.9 billion is transacted through our platforms. And then just last month itself, around 26 million USD was like cashed out from our platform. And then apart from that, like if you just love innovating, so definitely like we at Deriv, like there are like a couple of job opportunities for security, so you can definitely apply with us. And then about me, so I'm security team lead for Deriv, and then I have around like 4.5 years of experience in security. So I have like experience in multiple domains. One is like pen testing. Apart from that, I also know about like blue teaming, so things like threat hunting and all. And then about certification wise, like I have like a couple of management and cloud related certifications. And Ali, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So basically, my experience with Deriv and during my study and my interest is related to penetration testing as well as cloud security and DevSecOps. As you know that there is now most of the companies that they are using cloud technology, so it's easy for any engineer to do a mistake that actually leads to a security incidents or security breaches. So as a security engineer, we have to make sure that our infrastructure is secure and we are following the best practices and so forth. And also we are toward automations. As you know that we have big infrastructure, and to do a heavy test and manual test for each assets that we have, which is quite difficult. So we here actually we are using an automations. We automate our tools in order to be able to detect any security issues in real time and notify us in order to take it for the next step. So this is basically what actually ensures that what we are doing. And also we try and increase and assess to increase our employees' awarenesses by giving security sessions as well as security session and security exercises. As example, as you know that security actually using nowadays, like phishing is one of the threats that the attackers actually are using to gain access to the internet network. So we train our employees in order to detect these actually security this security phishing campaign in a real time, and they were capable enough to detect and notify us about any attacks is going on.
Okay, nice. So as Ali mentioned, like we do like pretty much everything that is possible within security. So like our internal teams do pen testing, and then we also have something called bug bounty program. So if you find a flaw on Deriv or binary, then we would pay you for finding that flaw. And going next, so what is a WebSocket, right? Coming to the topic of today's presentation. So before WebSocket, like I would like to explain that for communication, like there are like 3 types of communication modes. One is called simplex. So let's say like in simplex, what happens is that like one machine can send data to another machine. For example, like let's say if I'm printing a document, right? So that would be something like a simplex transmission mode, because I would be able to send data to printer, but printer won't send data back to me. It's just like one way thing. And then another thing is that another mode of transmission is half duplex. So half duplex would be something like a walkie-talkie. So basically, both the parties can send data to each other, but not simultaneously. So what will happen is that, like, let's say if I and you have a walkie-talkie, then I will be able to transmit data to you, and then you will be able to talk to me. But we can't do that at the same time, so it doesn't work in that way. And then finally, we have something called full duplex. So what happens in full duplex is that like one single communication mode will be like established, and then on that channel, so basically both the parties can talk. So let's say like how humans talk to each other, right? So we can both talk at the same time. So that is like what is full duplex. And another like one small little backstory that I would like to tell you is that like, so let's go like a couple of years back, almost like 20 years back. So before like 2000s, what we used to have was that we used to have like plain simple HTML and then like very basic level of programming languages. So all the web pages that you used to look at that point of time, right, they used to look very bad. So let's say if you want to like make a if you used to open like a news website, right, so what used to happen was that they used to like a lot of hyperlinks, and then once you go to that hyperlink, then you would see news. And if you want to see a new news, then you would have to like reload the whole page. So that thing was like not very good thing, because every time you have to see a new news article, you would have to reload the whole page. So after that, what happened was that like web 2.0 came. So just an example, so in web 1.0 we used to have HTML and all those things, and then in web 2.0 a lot of new technologies came. For example, Adobe Flash came, then JavaScript came, then Ajax also came, and then RSS feeds also came. So like just a group of all these technologies were called like web 2.0, like as a whole. So once like web 2.0 came, so what happened was that like you could have dynamic websites such as this. For example, like if I want to see a new news article, right, I can just go down and you see like it dynamically loads. So I can infinitely keep on going down, and it will always load a new article for me. So how this works in the background is that it uses something called Ajax basically. So Ajax is like JavaScript basically, and then what it does is that like it makes a call dynamically to the server, and then fetches the data and then loads in container within the web page. So you see this part. So it loads like content here. So this thing was not possible like in web 1.0 before 2000s. Okay, so this is like how we have been progressing. And then like we already have web 2.0, but now we have like something called, which is coming right in the future. So we something called web 3.0 will be there. So basically like new set of technologies. So that would contain something like a WebSocket, and then also technologies like Node.js and all. So those are like all the new technologies. But what is the next improvement is that we have something called WebSocket. Basically, if you see this Ajax, right, what happened here? So what Ajax does is that it makes a call to the server, something like this. It makes a call to the server and then waits for response, and then response comes from the server, and then it loads in the web page. But Ajax also is not very scalable, and it has a lot of like performance issues, because let's say like on that Yahoo web page, right, if I want to load 10 new articles, then that would like 10 new calls to the server. You can also like make it one call, but like in certain cases you'll have to make individual calls, because at different point of time those things will be loaded from the server, and then you don't want to wait for that long. So Ajax is not very scalable, right? So for that thing, like developers started thinking like what is the next thing that we can do. Then they came up with something called WebSocket. Basically Ajax is like half duplex communication, and WebSocket is like full duplex. So in WebSocket, what happens is that like you will have like something called initial handshake. Once that happens, then a communication channel will be formed, and over that communication channel, it's not the client who has to ask the server. Even server can send the data. So basically that will be like two-way data sharing. Okay, so same thing here. So another thing is that I want to mention is that like what is HTTP long polling. So basically what happens is that like let's think of some kind of WhatsApp or some communication kind of messaging kind of app, right? So let's say if I open google.com, right? So everything has to be static if I open google.com. So what happens is that I just send a request, and then server responds back, and everything immediately loads. But in some cases like messaging apps, so you have to wait for other person to type the message, and only then you will be able to fetch the data. So in that case, like we don't use like this traditional request and response thing. What we do is that we use something called HTTP long polling. So in that one, what happens is that like you send a request, but you do not like immediately expect the response to come. Basically, you wait for like a couple of minutes, or maybe like you wait indefinitely. So you would keep the session open, and then as soon as a response is available, only then server would respond. But problem is that like you would have to open a lot of connections and wait for those connections, which will consume a lot of resources. So that is why like WebSocket is a little better in comparison to Ajax. Okay, so about like pros and cons of WebSocket. So definitely like we know WebSocket is the next thing in web technologies. So what is the pros and what is the con? So basically in WebSocket, the pro is that like you would have like real-time updates. For example, WebSocket is used in a lot of gaming apps, and then a lot of messaging apps. So once you have like that communications channel set up, right? So your communication will be very fast, because in Ajax you have to send a request, which takes some time, and then wait for a response, and then display the response. But in this case, directly server will send you the data, and then you will display. It is a little fast, and then it is also supported by a lot of like common web browser, for example, Google Chrome, Mozilla, everything, and then also supported on different platforms, Android, iOS, and desktop. And then the best thing about like WebSocket is that like it is scalable, because if you see this thing, right, request 1, request 2, if you have to like send like maybe like 10-15 requests, that would like almost like take down your web browser, because it is like too many requests for a web browser to send. Because every time you send a request, a lot of like resources are consumed. Your memory will be consumed, your processor will be consumed. But in this case, like that thing doesn't happen. So for that reason, like WebSocket is scalable. But it's not just like good things about WebSocket. It has some cons also. First thing is that like there's no way to like load balance WebSockets. So so basically like in traditional Ajax and all, right, what happens is that like typically they're like static output that the website has to give. So in that case, like you could even have like a different server which can give the same response. But in this case, because that tunnel is formed, so typically it only like works on one server to another server kind of way. And then most of the proxy servers do not give support for WebSockets. And then caching is not possible basically in WebSockets. See, how caching works in like traditional technologies is that, let's consider example of this image, right? So let me open this image. Copy image address, right? So if I copy this image address, so what it is? So basically it is like this address. And then every time I visit this link, this image will load. So basically caching, how caching works is that like it would take this URL as like input key, and then this will be the output. So basically like every time somebody requests this, it can come from cache. But in WebSocket case, it wouldn't have like URLs like this. So it would have like only one static URL, and over that URL only like all the communications would happen. So in that case, like it is like a little tricky to figure out like what will be the response for that, because it doesn't work in like a request response way. It is like channel, and then server can also send something. So how would you cache that thing? So that is like a little tricky thing. That's why like caching doesn't work in sockets. And then it is not supported in all environments, and then features like present do not work very well with WebSockets. So where it is used in messaging apps. For example, if you open WhatsApp, you'll see like it uses like WebSockets. And in games, a lot of games are using WebSockets, and then collaborative tools, for example, Google Docs and coding tools, and then social feeds and click stream data. But talking about like our platform itself, so even like Deriv uses WebSockets. So the reason like we use WebSocket instead of using something like Ajax is that like our prices have to be like super sharp. Basically, what happens on a trading platform is that a graph will go up and down, and then you like traders would see like what is the current price, and if the price matches like what their requirement is, then they would place a trade. So in that case, like it becomes like very important that we always show them the exact price. We can't even like have like few seconds kind of lag, because that would impact their trades. Okay, so this is like our trading platform, and in this one you can see we have this graph going up and down, right? So basically this works on a WebSocket way. If we had to implement this using Ajax, it would have been like a lot of calls and a lot of like performance issues. But in this case, because we implement WebSockets, the website runs smooth, and then we always have like the updated price here. So that's how it works. And then so let's say if a website want to set up a WebSocket connection, how will that work? So basically how that will work is that first thing you have to know is that a WebSocket will always be linked with some HTTP website, like in most of the cases, because there's no way for a client to like directly set up a WebSocket connection. You can do, but for like user experience, right, I can't just type like WebSocket URL here, like something like WSS. So I typically would go to like some HTTP website like this one, and then in the background, like WebSocket will be used. So that is like how it works typically, but you can also like set up direct WebSocket connections. So first thing, the client would send a request to the server, and then what would happen is that like they would set up like a normal HTTP connection or HTTPS connection, and then another handshake would happen. In that one, what would happen is that like they would switch protocols. So from HTTPS, they would switch over to WSS, which is WebSocket. And then typically like there is like a response code linked with all the HTTP responses, right? So in this one, it is like 101. So whenever 101 is displayed on your web browser, it means like it is switching to some other protocol. And then server can either the server can send the data to client, or the client can send the data to the server. So we can see this action in this in action. So let's take example of like app.deriv.com, right? So if I close my web browser, and then I'm not sure like if you guys are familiar with Burp, but it is like a debugging tool. So in this one, you can see like all the requests that are going through the web browser. So in this case, what will happen is that like if I type google.com here, so I would see like what request went to Google in this debugger kind of tool. And then it has like two tabs, HTTP history and WebSocket history. In this one, I would see like HTTP request, and in this one, I would see like WebSocket request. Okay, so let's see like what happens if we visit like a website which uses like WebSocket. Okay, so see all these requests are going to the server, right? So okay, so we start from here, like this request went to the server, which was app.deriv.com, and then some response came. Same way, like it extracted like some JS files. And if you see, come up to here, right, up to here. So in this specific request, can I, oops, what is this? Okay, in this one, so what happened was that, I'm not sure if you're able to see, but this one is like the part where you switch from HTTPS to a WebSocket. Based on like this, you can say, because it says 101 switching protocols. So what happened was that they switched from HTTPS to WebSocket. And once this switching happens, then you would like this connection would start, WebSocket connection would start. And this is like, see this line that you can see. And in this one, you would see like either the server is making connection or the client is making connection to the server. So it's like a communication channel which is set up, and either parties can send the data. And that is like how this is coming. So in this case, like whenever the prices are getting updated, it is coming from the server. And then if I click something from here, then client would send data to the server. So that is how it would work. Okay. So now you know like how WebSockets work. So if you have to like figure out like if a website is using WebSocket or not, so how would you do? Basically, like you can use like one of these debuggers, and then like once you visit that website, just look for like 101 code. So this way, like this is like one of the ways for figuring out if it is using WebSocket. Once you know this, then another thing you can do is that like once you are on a website, right, which you are pen testing, so you can also go in like inspector tools for any web browser. And then once you go in network, so in this one, there is this thing called WS. You can click this, and then you have to like reload the page again. Basically, this is like a filter, WS, which is like WebSocket filter. So if a website is making calls to a WebSocket, so you will see like it here. So this call was made to WebSocket. So you can bring this up. See this one. This was the request which was sent to WebSocket, wss:/blue.binary.ws.com. So basically, like this call was made. So whenever you're pen testing, you can either like go it in this way. You can just filter for WS here, and then see all the calls made to WebSocket, or you can use Burp Suite or some tool like that and look for 101. Like don't have to look for 101. You can also look here in WebSocket tab. So that way also you can figure out if a website is using WebSockets. So once we know about WebSocket, so the next thing we can do is that like this part also I explained to you, right? This is like how what is the request that you send and how it switches to WebSocket. Okay, so once you know about WebSocket, you can learn about like how to pen test it. So these are the two ways I explained like how to identify like if website is using WebSocket. And then this is how you would exploit a WebSocket. First thing you have to identify. Next thing you have to do is that like, so even before that, like I would like to explain you one thing, right? So there will be like different modes of communication. It can be like simplex, half duplex, full duplex, anything. But there's like few kind of vulnerabilities which are not like, doesn't depend on like the mode of communication. For example, a vulnerability, something like SQL injection or something like accesses. So in these vulnerabilities, what happens is that like usually like the server side code or maybe like some client side code is not validating your input. So in case of like SQL injection, so the remediation typically everybody says is that like you should use something like prepared statement, right? So in that case, like it doesn't even matter like over which channel you communicate. The problem is that like on server side didn't fix one thing. So using WebSockets also you can exploit those kind of vulnerabilities. Basically, like you can send like untested input, untested like payloads, and then server would execute it. So the fix would be like from server side. Doesn't really matter like if it is UDP, TCP, or WebSocket or whatever it is. Okay. So coming back to like the WebSocket kind of stuff. So one thing is that like you have to identify if the application is communicating over WS or over WSS. So what is the difference between these two is that like basically these are like comparable to HTTP and HTTPS. WS is like HTTP and WSS is HTTPS. So basically WS is plain text. So if a website is communicating over this, then like you can do man in the middle attacks and you can see all the traffic. And then next thing you have to figure out is that like, is the website having some kind of input validation for WebSockets? Like, let's say if it is a banking website, right, and it communicates over WebSockets, so you can try to like send some payloads, accesses, so SQL injection, and you can see if they're getting validated. If not, then you can exploit like those kind of vulnerabilities. And then there's like something specific to WebSockets is that like for most of the cases, for example, like for Deriv.com, so I told you, right, WebSockets are typically linked with some kind of web application. So in that case, like you can check for this thing, if origin header is being checked. Basically, if a WebSocket is linked with Deriv.com, then exploit.com or evil.com should not be able to call the same WebSocket because it was only meant to be used on Deriv.com. It can't be used on evil.com. So if somebody else is also able to make calls to a WebSocket, then there are like some security vulnerabilities that somebody can exploit. We will talk about this later. And then can you do like some kind of DOS attack? So basically, if you send like a very long input, then you can crash like the whole WebSocket and the server also in some cases. So that is like also one of the attacks that you can do. And next thing, common vulnerabilities. So most of the things that you can do in traditional web applications is also doable on WebSockets. Basically, WebSocket is just like a new attack surface, but you can do the same things that you could have done in like web applications. Okay, so but there are like some few specific things for WebSocket also. So one thing is that there's a vulnerability called cross-site WebSocket hijacking, basically doing like CSR with WebSockets. We will talk about this one later in a demo. And then you can also do information disclosure, basically leaking like sensitive information, because in some cases like all the website developers assumes that WebSocket will happen in like kind of backend, and then user would not be able to see it in the web browser. But using tools like Burp and going in your inspector and all, you can see like all the communication which happens, and you can leak some information. Denial of service is possible. Cross-site scripting is also possible. And this is like one of the examples for WebSocket issues. So this one would be like something like cross-site WebSocket hijacking, basically. So this issue was reported by HackerOne to PlayStation, and then this issue was in PlayStation Now, and the researcher got awarded like 15,000 for this vulnerability, and he was able to like achieve like remote code execution with this vulnerability. So how this thing worked was that like for PlayStation 11.0.2, basically if you run this application PlayStation Now, it would open like a WebSocket on this URL localhost and on this port 12345. So in this case, what happened was that like on this WebSocket, it was also accepting commands, system level commands. So what he did was that he created his own website, and then he created like some JavaScripts which could make call to this one, just your local host basically. And then because their WebSocket was not checking like which domain can call me, so his website could also make like system level calls to this WebSocket. Basically, from his website, he gave commands like ls, commands like cd delete something, and then those were getting executed using this WebSocket. So in this case, like the thing was that like PlayStation WebSocket had to check if it is only getting calls from like authorized domains, but it did not do that check. For that reason, like other domains were also be able to call it and then give like commands that would execute on the system. So this was like critical bug in PlayStation. And then yeah, for next thing, like we have like 3 demos, and then Ali will be giving you those demos. Ali. But so far, like anybody has any question, you can ask us within this presentation also.
Yeah, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So for our demos, we will go through 3 labs. So these labs are actually from Portswigger. So it's actually this website, online platform, they have various labs. It's not limited only to WebSockets, but you can even practice skill injections as well as accesses and advanced attack. The good part about this online platform is that whenever there is a new vulnerability is discovered, they will create a lab for it, and also they will discuss the vulnerability in detail, and then you will be able actually to understand how actually to remediate this issue. And also within these demos, we will be using PERB, which is basically PERB. It can be PERB community or professional, but for our demo, we will basically go through using PERB professional. So let's come back here to the first lab. So here actually this lab is asking us to manipulate the WebSocket message to exploit the vulnerabilities. So as you can see here, it says like we have to try to exploit an XSS using WebSocket messages. So let's start the lab first and make sure that our actually proxy perp is configured. So we will set intercept off and on now for now. And also there is a handy extension called Foxy Proxy. You can install it in Firefox, where you can just configure perb in order to start listening for the messages and so forth. So in this lab, they have a feature called live chat. So where it allows the user to communicate with a live agent and send the message and in it. So once actually the WebSocket handshake is initiated, it will say like the connection is connected, and now we are chatting with this agent. So first of all, we would like to see the type of messages and how actually it goes. So let's say like we send hi. And as we can see here, we were able to capture this one using perp and then forward it. And now the chat ended, because you know the WebSocket, like whenever like it times out, it will close the connection. So let's try to refresh the page again and then send hi. And now we are connected again, and then send this message. Yeah. So you see here actually the user and the content of the message, and it says typing, and here's actually the message that we are receiving from the server, which is basically the agent in this case. So let's forward these messages and see. Yeah. So here we go. So in it for this lab is we need to exploit an XSS. So first of all, we would like to try to inject a simple script script tag that allows us to pop up a message, and we'll check how actually this application behave with XSS JavaScript code injected. So as example here, we will intercept on as well again, and then click send. So as we can see here, it seems like there is a sort of HTML encoding, which might actually stop us from initiating this attack. So now let's send it back, and we will check to confirm whether basically our payload is working or not. So as we can see here, nothing pop up, right? So now we will move to the next stage in order to check the function that basically encode these actually messages from the browser before going to the server. So let's navigate to view page source. So basically here it shows the HTML and also the JavaScript files imported for this one. So while analyzing the form and the HTML source code here, as we can see here, is that there is a form which is connected to this WebSocket. So as our colleague Amit mentioned, that WSS mean that the traffic will be transmitted over TLS and it will be encrypted. So the first requirement here is sufficient with the security, and it is good. So here's actually the input, and there's a JavaScript endpoint, which seems interesting. So let's visit this actually JavaScript code here. So we see here the typing, and already this is what we have seen here in the perb when we intercepted the traffic. And here it says disconnected and chat and has ended already. So yeah, so here is actually there is a HTML encoding, which is encode the string, and whenever like we inject any script tags and so forth, it will encode it. So that's why it stops us from executing our payload. But there is another thing to consider, which is there any validation in terms of server side? Does that if we intercept the message in perb and manipulate it with our tag instead of this encoded message, does the server will accept it and return it back or not? This is what we will see now. So let's now, since the communication is still open, so now we'll try to send any dummy message here and intercept it and modify it on the fly using perb. So yeah, here's actually our message. So in this case, we would like to inject our first payload here, and we will check whether there is our exploit will be executed or not. Yeah, so since the chat, because like we took a longer, so the chat session is already ended. So now let's start again, and then intercept a request here and inject our payload. Yeah, so you can see here so far it seems the server is basically accepting our payload. So in this case, we were able actually to execute JavaScript code, and now we can take it further to exploit it and gain the cookies and so forth. But for our demonstration, it's just only to pop up this thing. So the keynote here when we test WebSocket is that if there is any type of validations, input validation in the browser, I mean like from the app in the client side, we can actually intercept that request using perb and also try to modify that actually message on the fly and inject our code. And here's actually the case where we were able to inject our payload and it gets executed. So this actually is not limited only to SQL to XSS, but it can be executed for the other vulnerabilities like SQL injection and other types of vulnerability as well. So since now we already solved the first lab, so let's now move to the next lab. So here's actually the second lab, which is similar to the first one. It uses WebSocket to send messages, and yeah, so it sends the WebSocket to send messages. And also there is a filter here in this lab. So there is a filter even in the backend. So now we have two filters in terms of like in the client, from the client side, as well as from the backend side, as well as whenever there is like the attacker try to inject any types of JavaScript, it will basically ban that IP address, and the attacker will not be able to execute any sort of JavaScript. So as example here, so let's now we try to send the dummy message here and try to modify it. So as example here, so we have high right. So let's try to inject our previous payload and check what actually how the application will behave on this thing. So you can see here the chat is already ended. So because if we refresh the page again, it says this address is blacklisted. So in order actually to try to test if the JavaScript, this actually application is vulnerable to accesses or not, we will need first to play around with the headers in order to confirm how we can actually bypass this. So there is actually a header, as example, if we can see here, if we can just reload the page again. So let's add this header, X-forwarded header. So this is actually responsible to say the origin of the request, and refresh the page again. So forbidden duplicate header names are not allowed. So, oh yeah, so let's actually, because like we are using a specific header here, so let's actually remove it and use our payload here again. So, and we will check how actually the app will behave on this one. So still this IP address is actually blocked. So let's say we change it here. So as actually Amit showed that we can use the repeater feature in perp and try to play around with this IP address. So we will try to avoid the blacklisting. So as example here, if we render actually the HTML page, we can see that we were able actually to bypass this filter by adding this actually header, which is to change the source of the request, which is a good. Now we can move it and try to bypass the filter of the XSS. So there is actually two places where we can actually add this header to our request. So it can be either via perp. There is a feature to match and then add this header to it, or we can, for our demo, we can use this actually extension called header, where it allows you to send original headers with it. So let's actually try to use this extension to add our header. So whenever we send a request here, as example, we can see here that the header already actually added by this extension. So let's say, so now it's good. So we basically we bypassed the first restriction that the application is used is the IP address blacklist. And then now we will try, since we tried the first payload and there was a filter, now we will try to add our second payload. So in order to bypass the filter here, we just capitalize on error handle word. So in this case, the application will not be able actually to filter it, and our JavaScript will be executed as well, and our tag here will be executed. So it's actually one of the common actually issues that most of the developers actually they are doing. So since like we injected here, so there is HTML encoding, we need to add our actually payload using perp. Let's send this actually our payload here, and we'll check. Yeah, so in this case, in this lab, the keynote of it, there was two types of restriction. The first one was IP restriction. It will blacklist you whenever you try to execute any malicious input that you enter. As example, we entered JavaScript and it blocked us. And the second one was injecting our JavaScript code. So the developer thought that he already implemented a good fix for the first vulnerability, but unfortunately he wasn't. So we were able to execute JavaScript. So all of these actually codes, everything happened because of using WebSocket. So the transmission was using WebSocket, but you can see as long as like the WebSocket is implemented, you can treat it as example, same as the HTTP request, and then you can inject this JavaScript code or perform any type of attacks like SRF or even SQL injection as well.
Okay, so one more thing I would like to add to what Ali explained. So basically, in first case, like we were able to bypass the IP restriction, right, using X forward for header. So why did that work? Like, what's the point of X forwarded for header? So basically, like what happens is that Ali, can you open wimi.com? wimi.com. So let's say, yeah, I.com. Yeah. So let's say if a client is directly visiting a website, right? So let's say if it is a PHP-based website. So basically they have a function using which they can get the IP. So because client is directly visiting the website, they can directly get the IP. But in modern technologies, what happens is that like clients do not directly visit the website. So typically in between there is like a load balancer. So what would happen is that like there will be like 3 servers. Client would go to load balancer and then load balancer would go to the website. So let's say if this kind of websites wants to like fetch my IP, so how would they fetch? So if they use that PHP function to fetch the IP, right? So they would always fetch the load balancer IP. They would never be able to like directly fetch the client IP. So for this kind of challenge, so basically like what everybody developers came up with was that like they came up with a header called X forward for header. So in that case, what happens is that like a client will directly visit the load balancer, and then load balancer would fetch the IP, and then it would store that IP in X forward for header. And then once load balancer makes call to the website, right? So it would send that header, which will keep the client IP. And then once it lands on the end website, then end website would be able to figure out like, okay, who's the client. So based on that, like a lot of companies work. For example, Netflix has to show you like show all the series suggestions based on your location, right? So typically, like they would take this kind of header and then figure out like who's the customer. So in that case, like in this case, what happened was that like website was blocking a client, but they were blocking based on like whatever IP is contained within that header, because they don't have a way to like figure out the client IP directly because it comes via load balancer. So that is like why X forward for works.
Yeah, and also it's not even like limited for our case. In this one, there is you can bypass even like rate limit issues. Imagine like you have a website that actually in order to log in, you will have to enter, as example, 2-factor authentication code, and if that 2-factor authentication code is like 4 digits or 3 digits, and the developer actually implemented a rate limit. So whenever actually you try to brute force it, it will block you. So in this case, you can try to add this actually header, export header, and check how actually the application is behaving once actually you send the request. There are some cases where actually they don't actually filter that actually header, and then the attacker was able to brute force this actually 2-factor authentication code and then get access to the victim account. So basically, it's really widely used. I do recommend you that you do some research about it. So in order to know exactly, since if you understand it well, you will definitely be able to discover multiple interesting vulnerabilities as well. So now let's move to the third lab. So this lab is a cross-site WebSocket hijacking. So what happened is that, so in this case, like the application doesn't actually validate the origin header from where actually the request is initiated, as well as there is no CSRF. In order to confirm this thing, so let's actually start the lab first. So since actually these labs all are actually similar, and the only difference is like the only type of the vulnerabilities that we can actually discover here. So as we will navigate to the live chat, as also Amit mentioned that one of the common using place is a place that use it using WebSocket for is live chatting or to list the leaderboard for the games and so forth. So if we actually try to inject anything here, So let's say, as example, this hi message, and then forward it. So let's now go over to the WebSocket history. And also we will try to basically go to basically the handshake. So here. So if we examine here, it's actually same as what Amit mentioned during the first part of this session is that there must be a first request, which is to upgrade the request to use WebSockets. So as example here, if we can see here, like there is these headers where it says like we are going to use a WebSocket, and here's the connection is set to upgrade, which means like we are going to upgrade our HTTP request to a WebSocket, and the server reply to us with 1.1, which is switching protocol, and then starting the communication as well. So if we can look further to the request here, we don't really have any protection against CSRF. Even like once we try to check our actually payload, our previous requests from previous labs, there was no actually CSRF protection against these messages and inputs and so forth. So this can actually introduce us to another issues, which is cross-origin, and one where actually the attacker will be able to steal sensitive informations, as well as initiating other dangerous requests in behalf on the client. As example here, it can be like stealing the information of the live chat infos, or actually performing bank transactions that transfer money from one account to another. So in order actually to exploit this one, we will need a separate server that actually hosts our code that will be used to deliver it to the victim and visit it. Once the victim actually visited, we can actually conduct our attacks. Basically, it can be stealing a sensitive info, or it can be doing dangerous transactions as well. So if we can see here, so as example, we can host this code. Basically, what it does is it initiates requests with the vulnerable WebSocket endpoint and start the communication, and it will retrieve all the messages and the sensitive data that actually the client has initiated with the live agent, and send it to our perp collaborators. So what happened is that for this one is collaborator function feature is available in perp professional, so it's not available in perp community. So in this case, you will need to have perp in order to do this, in order to make it easier, since it will actually send all the requests to your endpoint. So there's a first requirement. We will have to
Ali, so 10 minutes are left, so let's do it fast.
Yeah, sure. So let's actually copy this URL and paste it here. So this is actually the endpoint of the WebSocket, and then we will need to have our perp collaborator. So from this thing, we can navigate, and we will set it to pull every 5 minutes. So as example here, copy it to the clipboard, and then we will navigate here. So since perp, it has the delivery method to the victim, it has already built-in function, automated function, then we can only paste our perp collaborator here and copy and paste this our JavaScript code that will be hosted under exploit path. So let's store our code here, and now we will deliver this exploit to the victim. So since, as I mentioned, this actually will be automated in the background by perp academy, and it will try to retrieve the information of the live agents between the victim victims and the agent. So if we go back here to our perp collaborator, so we can see we have been able to retrieve if all of these messages that it came between the victim as well as between the victim and the live agent. If we visit here live session, the request body where it shows like how actually the communication went through. Yeah, hello, how can I help you? And then here's, if we can see here, I hope that doesn't back to me. So as example here, it says no problem, Carlos, and they were transmitting the password during that using the message feature. So if in case that, since now we were able to grab the password, so let's actually try to log into the account using actually this password, Carlos, and the password. So as you can see here, we were able to log into the account and without the need of the password, without need, I mean like by just initiating this actually cross-site WebSocket hijack. In order to do to fix this, the website should validate the origin of the request and make sure, and adding another CSRF protection to make sure that the request is already generated by the user, not actually by the attacker. So since we are not left with much time, so let's actually describe how actually we can secure our WebSocket. So as example, as we have seen on our labs, they already use WSS, which will actually allow to encrypt these traffics. And also we will need to hard code the URL of the WebSocket. And also we don't really need to trust the user input. We always we need to untrust the user input and make it as danger in order, since the attacker can basically inject JavaScript code or trying to do SQL injections, queries in the requests and messages and try to exploit it further. And also we will need to check the origin of the request. So yeah, so for further resources, you can actually visit the Swagger Academy website, and they have nice labs. So no matter how experienced you are, there is always there's a new lab with various difficulties that it allows you to progress in your career as well. So in case if you would like to connect with us, here's our LinkedIn. You can find our accounts on LinkedIn, Ali Fathi Ali Sawehli or Amit Kumar.
Okay, so now it is Q&A session, and you guys can ask us question. Ali, can you go back 2 slides back, PlayStation? So somebody asked about is it possible to trigger remote code execution using WebSockets? So we showed one example, this one. So in this one, yeah, that one, yeah, PlayStation. So in this one, it was a remote code execution on the user machine, whosoever installs PlayStation Now. Yeah, this one. And yeah, one more thing about vigilante hacking, right? So basically, that means something you would hack companies without the authorization, just for greater good and all those things, right? So Ali, can you open hacker one?
Yeah, sure.
So yeah. So thing is that you can do it, but it is illegal, right? So companies can sue you legally for hacking them actually if you do something like that. So I myself have done few vigilante hacking things, but in that case companies were nice to me, but you cannot expect companies to be nice to you. Some companies can sue you also. But if you're planning to hack right, and if you're highly skilled and all, then you can spend all the time and effort to hack Google, Facebook, and all these big companies, right? If you hack Facebook, they'll pay you $40,000. If you hack some blockchain kind of companies, they'll pay you $1 million also. If you're that skilled, then spend your time there, and you can still do good to the society and yourself also. Why wouldn't you want to make $1 million? Why would you like to risk yourself and into going into jail or something? So
yeah,
so that is what people usually do these days. People do bug bounty. So I myself have done bug bounties on Facebook, Google, and all the big companies, actually Apple. So when Apple is able to like get server access, so those kind of things you can do, and then they'll acknowledge you and then they'll pay you also for that.
Yeah. Also, like on HackerOne, like since there are like hundreds of programs nowadays, so you can even like read the policy. So
Can you open for binary? So it is
yeah.
outside.
So I totally forget about
Yeah, we can do advertisement.
Yeah. So basically, also we have two products. Here's Binary, and also we have Deriv. So currently, we only have binary.com bug bounty programs. So here is actually the policy. So whenever you came across any target, it's not necessary to be us. There is a policy page here on HackerOne. It says to you like what's allowed, what's not allowed. If you found any type of vulnerabilities, where you should stop and what you should report to us immediately, and so forth. And even like it says, it has a breakdown of our assets, as well as the how actually we can award you a bounty with up to, as example, we offer for important business up to 10K USD dollars. So it can be a great chance to try to hack us and report vulnerabilities to us. We will definitely be happy to reward you immediately.
And finally, Ali, can you open Deriv careers page? So we have like you can apply for Deriv also. As you can see, like Ali is your alumni. He directly was a fresh grad and then he came to Deriv. So we have like two roles which are open. One is like security engineer, which is more about like programmer kind of role. You have to develop like security stuff, like scanners and all those things. And then we also have security researcher. For this position, you will be doing pen testing and you would be doing bug bounty triage, basically all the reports that come by HackerOne. So you'll be like resolving those reports. And then okay.
Oh yeah, so here's actually the security role. So even like it's not only limited for Malaysian office, but it can be also in Dubai or Malta or other countries as well.
Okay, so Nicholas asked a question. Can TLS 1.3 expose to XSS? Actually, like that doesn't make any sense, because like TLS and all those are like communication mediums, right? XSS will happen because of vulnerable code. So regardless of like TLS 1.0, TLS even like 100.0, so whatever it is, it won't really like make any impact on XSS, because XSS is because of like vulnerable JavaScript and vulnerable server-side code. So in answer to that question is yes. So no, like even with TLS 1.3, you can have XSS.
Yeah. So only TLS is used like to encrypt the communication. So if you found any like way to unencrypt these traffics, then this would be an issues with TLS.
So basically, like what's the point of TLS is that like it encrypts your traffic which goes to the server. So nobody can in the middle can see your traffic.
Yeah, so as example, like what we have seen in the labs, so since like the labs, they are using WSS, it means like the traffic will be encrypted. So in case like if it's not encrypted, as example, if I am in the middle of the network, I can actually see the traffic and we can end up seeing the password, as we have seen like the communication that was between the victim and the live agent.
Ali, would you like to share some vulnerabilities that you identified during work? Some good ones. So like I identified like one vulnerability. It was not specific to trading and all, but still like it was like a good enough vulnerability. So basically we have like leave management system. So in that one, like you can get approve that leave yourself actually, and you can also like leave on somebody's behalf. You can do like anything that you want.
And even like you can add more leaves if you would like to.
Yeah. And one more thing. So yeah, another vulnerability like one of my colleagues identified was that like during work from home, so basically like we get paid based on hourly. Like we have like some people who freelance and all, so they were actually able to like add more hours and then make more money.
Yeah. So also one of our actually responsibility is that we will do some, not considered as a heavy testing, but like in order like to make sure that our third-party systems that we are using are actually compiled with the security standards. So whenever we try to use any third-party system, we will need to make sure that they actually encrypt our data, and they don't really expose it to the public and so forth. So which is basically what Amit mentioned related to that vulnerability. So that software wasn't actually us, but it was with other companies as well. But before testing that, actually, this application, they do have bug bounty, so we were allowed to do these testings.
Okay, so it's 4:11. I can take like one more question if somebody has any question, or then this will be like the end of presentation if no other questions. Okay, so I guess like that's the end of presentation. So thank you everybody, and then you feel free to apply to these jobs that Ali is showing you on this page.
And also, I would like to deliver a big thanks to Madam Yusinita and also Madam Noor Azalina as well, because of the effort that actually it's allowed me to be successful in my career as well, since like both of them, they taught me, Madam Yusinita during the first semester, FTT lectures and so forth, and then Madam Noor Azalina as well in computer system security as well. So it was like a big advantage of undergoing these modules. So it helped us a lot in my career as well.
Over to you, Aidan.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Amit, and thank you, Mr. Ali, for the amazing session. I believe a lot of people enjoyed it, and thank you for the live demo as well. That was really helpful in, I guess, like understanding the things that were introduced earlier. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, same here as well.
All right. I guess since it's 4:10, we are about to move to the closing ceremony. Would you guys like to add anything before we end this session?
All the best with your journey. And one tip I would like to give you is that like all the people that I have met so far in security have been like nice enough. So you can reach out to anybody, like even us, if you have like anything that you want to discuss. Like when I was like fresh grad, I was applying to a lot of companies. I was not getting like enough direction, but I reached out to a lot of people on LinkedIn also, and everybody helped. So that is like something you can do. Like people are nice in security is what I have seen so far.
Yeah. And also I would like to add is that what it benefit me during my studies is that I try to recommend you like to not stop or do not restrict basically yourself to the assignment requirement. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, by this thing, I don't really mean by don't do the assignment, but like do the assignment, do the main requirement, and take it further. So this will definitely will help you immediately. So as example, I remember we had module malicious software development, something like this. And I remember like the requirement was only to develop 3 malicious features on your app. So basically, I remember that we end up with around maybe 20 features extra. So this actually, it was really a nice experience, and I got to expose to a difference, like how actually the communications, how to encrypt the traffic, and how to not to be like detectable by antiviruses and so forth. So this definitely will really help you in your future career as well as you during the assignment modules. So definitely will get A+ as well. So since this is actually my advice to you, since I was APU student. So as I can see now, it helped me a lot. And whenever you have any questions, I think now the lecturer there, they are doing great job. So just ask them, don't feel shy.
Hey, thanks a lot for all of the advice, and thanks a lot for the offer. I think this is it for the session. Thank you both again for joining us today. We'll now move over to the closing ceremony.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys.
Bye.
See ya.
breaking into their network.
Welcome to the Battle of Hackers. I'm Tom, CTO here at Deriv.com, and we're proud to be sponsoring this event. For those who haven't heard of us before, we're an online trading platform. Trading means we deal with money and client data, and these topics demand excellent security awareness. This means we have a dedicated security team, and they're always busy. Dealing with payments, multiple cloud systems, and the ever-changing challenges of technology means that we have to test and extend our systems continuously. Of course, this also means that we're hiring. So, scan those QR codes and give us a shout. Security is critical to us, and we strongly believe that this should apply to any IT company. The role a security engineer plays is essential in keeping systems safe and secure, both by defending and testing limits through simulated hacking exercises. It demands creativity, flexibility, and a wide range of knowledge for networking, frameworks, languages, and systems. We hope this event will give you an opportunity to demonstrate your skills to the fullest extent, and we're very excited to see what you can do in the time available. Good luck and get hacking.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Faisal. I'm the Chief Growth Officer of Nexagate. We are very proud today to be collaborating with APU to make Battle of Hackers 2021 happen. This is part of our initiative to nurture the next generation of cybersecurity experts who will in turn keep our cyberspace secure. All the best and have fun.
Thank our sponsors, Nexagate, Deriv, and ThreatHounds again for making this event possible. And also a special thanks to their representative who hosted the session just now for joining us today, and also, of course, for hosting such amazing sessions. Also, I'd like to thank APU board members, Mr. Gurpardip Singh, the Chief Operation Officer of APU, and Mr. Priya Singh, the Head of School of the Technology of APU for joining us today. Speaking of which, would Mr. Gurpardip like to give us a short speech? All right, we'll be taking that as a no. In that case, can we have Ms. Supriya to give the closing speech for the event, followed by the winner's announcement?
Thank you, Aiden. Thank you very much.
Right.
I think that video was fantastic. The starting video, which the FSEC team prepared, that was really, really charged up and very, very well done. All right. So this Battle of Hackers, guys, 2021 has been yet another success. We've been hosting BOH since the last several years. And despite the fact in 2020 and in 2021, right, both years, we've conducted it virtually, but I think it's gone seamlessly, so beautifully. And, you know, it's because of the dedication and the hard work of the forensics and cybersecurity student section team. Yeah. And the advisors, Puan Azlina and Puan Yusnita. I think hats off to you guys for doing a commendable job over the last several months. I mean, if I look at the emails that have been going back and forth with industry guys, with the technical team, etc., wonderful job done, right? So the fact that we've had 12 universities taking part in this hackathon over the weekend shows sheer dedication, passion, hard work of all the participants, right? And it's a strong indication of their willingness to go that extra mile to attain their goals in future. So good job, everyone. We always say that, you know, students, while they're doing the degree program in any university, it's very important to take part in these kind of competitions, because what happens in these competitions is your soft skills really get developed, right? And employers these days, fine, you might have the best of distinctions and credits shown in your transcript, but if you talk about the kind of competitions you've taken part, right, that says a lot about you as a candidate applying for a job, because that shows that you have shown resilience. You are good at problem solving. There's agility in the way you work, communication, sheer confidence to be able to work in a team and to work under pressure. And these are very, very important soft skills, right? I think it'll be very unfair of me if I don't take a few names here, because these are the names of people who've really worked hard over the last several months. So that's starting off with Farzan Muhammad, who's the president, and Mohammed Zafran, the vice president, who were the project managers for Battle of Hackers 2021. We have Xiao Hui, the secretary. We've got Jia Qi, who's the vice secretary, and a host of other members of the FSEC student section who have contributed towards creating the challenge, yeah, of building the social media content, the graphic design that's put into it, and many others who've contributed one way or the other towards making this a great success, right? And of course, a special thanks to our sponsors, that's Nexagate, Deriv Services, and Threat Hounds. And also for the webinars that were conducted today, this afternoon. Ali, as we all know from Deriv Services, he's an alumnus, and so are the guys from Threat Hounds. So I think it's of great pride for us to have them come back and share their knowledge and experience with our students, right? It feels really good, because our students, when they do well out there, it means a lot to us. It tells us, yes, we are doing something right, yeah? So in today's Battle of Hackers 2021, we've had a total of 38 teams from 12 universities, and the universities are UTHM, UITM, IIUM, APU, TAR College, UNIKL, USIM, TATIUC, KDU, USM, UTM, and UTEM. And of course, there are amazing prizes to be given out to the top 5 teams. So I know everyone's sitting on the edge wanting to know what the results are like. So without any further ado, over to Aiden, if you could just share the screen and we could go through the winners for Battle of Hackers 2021, right? So, so starting off with the consolation prizes, which goes to teams, the 5 teams we've chosen, that's Sen Jia Lin, who is from Asia Pacific University with a score of 2689. Very well done, Jia Lin. Kyo Chon Mu, again from APU with a score of 2253. Wonderful. Meow Meow, that's a fantastic team name. 2226 is a score again from APU. We have C4 2215, and this one is from USIM. Alpha Shock 2022 from Tar University College. Guys, congratulations for the consolation prizes. Very well done. All right. Next, going on to the 5th place prize, which is for a prize of RM150 with 3 swag boxes from AWS, right? And the 5th place goes to Team Sheesh. Congratulations, Team Sheesh, with a score of 3215. Team Sheesh is from University Science Islam Malaysia. Fantastic team members, Muhammad Afiq, Muhammad Hazmi, and Hanifa Hadira. Fantastic, guys. Congratulations. Next, getting on to the 4th place prize, which is for RM300 with 3 swag boxes from AWS. And the 4th place goes to Team SKR from KDU, and the score is 4869. And we have a loner there, Chin Hong Wei. Fantastic, Hong Wei. Despite being all by yourself, the fact that you've secured a 4th position, I think kudos. Wonderful. Good job. Next, getting on to the 3rd place prize for RM600 with 3 swag boxes from AWS goes to Team CyberX from University Technology Malaysia with a score of 5053. And congratulations to the team members. That's Abdullah Ahmad, Anas Ruby, and Saleh Muhammad. Fantastic. And we are getting on to the last 2, the top 2, and coming on to the 2nd place prize of RM900 with 3 swag boxes. Guys, any guesses? Right, let's have a look. Team HoJ3N. Now, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it correctly, but good job. This is from UITM, score of 5851. Fantastic team members. Muhammad Ali Akbar, Iman Irfan, and Muhammad Idham. Fantastic. Congratulations, guys, all of you. And now, getting on to the Championship Award for Battle of Hackers 2021. That's your 1st place prize for RM 1200 with 3 Echo Dots from AWS with 3 swag boxes. And the winner, hang on. Any guesses, anyone? Anyone? Okay, nobody wants to shout out. Okay, it's out. Fantastic. Champions, that's Space Cat from Asia Pacific University. Wonderful, congratulations with a score of 6,161. And the team members, wonderful, congratulations, Ryan Martin, Nicholas, and William Vijaya. I think congratulations to everyone, to all the universities who've taken part, to all the team members who've taken their weekend out to actually get down to taking part in this competition and making it such a wonderful success. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Aiden. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Priya. And congratulations to all the winners. For those who didn't make it this year, as mentioned by Mr. Priya, by taking the initiative to join activities outside of school, you're already a winner in that sense. And there's always next year. And we're hoping to be able to host you at our university campus by then, but we'll see. Before ending the event for this year, we'd like to play a closing video that shows how far we've gone since the first CTF hosted by APU. So, V. All right, before ending the event for this year, we like to take a group photo. Oh, I think I already set that for the video just now. So how about before we end this meeting, let's take a group photo. For those who want to join us, for those who are willing to turn on their camera, please do, so that one of our committee member would be able to take a screenshot of everyone. And that'd have to be the group photo for this year because of COVID, unfortunately.
That's
Anytime
about it.
now.
All right, all right, all right. Now I was just waiting for some more people. All right, then say cheese. Okay, I'll do a countdown. I'll do a countdown. Don't worry, I'll do a countdown and let's take it. Yeah, in a 3, 2, 1, cheese. All right, let's go with this. All right, and we'll take one more, and you are free to do anything. You know, cheese is not required, but all right. 3, 2, 1, peace. All right. Thank you for joining the camera session. And yeah, I think I'll end it and send it to Aiden on this one. Thank you.
I believe Farzan has taken the photo.
Yes, sir. Taken. Pictures are taken.
Can you give me a nod?
Yes, yes, yes.
For context, my headset is dead.
Yes,
This is just worrying me for consistency.
Yes.
Okay, I believe this is the end of this year's event. Thank you everyone for coming. Of course, thank you again for all our sponsors and their representatives for joining us today. And of course, we hope to see you again next year. All right, I think that's it. Thank you. I'll have a great afternoon ahead. Bye, guys.
Thank you all for joining the BOH 2021. Take care. Stay safe. I request the committee members to stay back if it's all right.